Hot 106.5, it's time now for Front Page Jacksonville, a show that delves into the issues that affect you. We believe in transparency and providing only the facts. And now, here's Octavius Davis.
Good morning. If you have not yet gotten out of bed and you're just listening to the show right now, pondering your day, what you gonna wear to church, what you gonna make for dinner, let me let you know right now, when you step outside, fall has fallen. There is a nice, cool, brisk breeze in the air.
Love it.
Fall has fallen. The humidity has begun dropping in the city of Jacksonville. Now for me, this is probably as cold as I like for it to get. Maybe a skosh colder, but outside of that, when you start talking 40s, 30s, now for me, I'm like, okay, what are we really doing? Sun, S-U-N, what are you doing? Get on your job. But this time of year, I really enjoy this time of year because it's not overbearingly hot. It's not sub-zero cold. It's just, sweater weather.
My favorite.
Hoodie weather, The other week, maybe 2 Fridays ago, my wife and we went out. I threw some boots on, grabbed some boots out the closet, threw me some boots on.
What?
Yeah. I own a couple of pair of boots, It's that time of year. Now, I don't do scarves. I just can't, to me, it doesn't get cold enough for scarves. I'll do a sweater. I'll do a pea coat.
Most people. This is Florida. People don't know what pea coats are.
It is Florida, but Jacksonville is a melting pot. They know what pea coats are. So this is a military town. They know what pea coats are, right? Now, if I start talking about a triple down goose, right, then I can understand. Like when I used to live in Detroit, and a triple down goose jacket, it's a big, puffy jacket that is stuffed with, I think, goose feathers. Mm-hmm. But, that mama jamma is warm. It is warm. Back in the day when I lived in Detroit, so this was like the late 80s when I lived in Detroit. And those were the coats that everybody went crazy about. Right. Here in Jacksonville, here in Florida during that time in the early 90s, it was the starter jackets, that everybody went crazy for. But, the triple down goose jacket and the starter jacket, two very different styles of coat. Because the starter jacket was more about fashion, representing your sports teams and this, that, and the third. Those triple down goose, it was all about warmth first, but then secondly, fashion. Yeah, fashion came second. You weren't going to see no sports apparel logos on no triple down goose jacket. Just wasn't going to happen. But the mama jammas felt good. and so now, Wanda, telling my age, of course, I shared with the listeners last week that I turned 46 recently. But this, when I lived in Detroit, and let me say this now, we have any Detroit listeners. I hated living in Detroit. Seriously, I hated it.
Yeah.
It seemed like my brother and I had to fight for our lives every other day. I don't know why the neighborhood kids didn't like us, but we was always brawling somebody's kids somewhere.
Yeah.
But secondly, when the weather did turn, November, December, there was no bus. We had to walk to school.
Wow.
10 blocks. We walked 10 blocks. I walked 10 blocks because he went to a different school. I was in elementary, 5th grade. I had to walk 10 blocks to school in the snow.
Really?
Yes. It's like, for those in my generation, it's like those are real stories.
Yeah.
On social media, they try to make jokes. Yeah. I'm like, my parents be exaggerating. No.
No, that stuff really happened.
It really happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rain, sleet, or snow. We had rain boots.
Yeah.
We walked to school. So there was this guy named Melvin. Melvin now lives in Atlanta, very successful car dealership owner up in Atlanta. He and I, we were safety patrols. Mm-hmm. we would walk to school together and everything. And, once we get to the school, and we had to make sure all the kids got into the school safely. And the coach, I can't remember the coach's name at the moment, but he oversaw the safety patrols. He would always have hot cocoa ready for us once all the safety patrols, you know, got into the building and everything. But
that was nice.
But as I'm reflecting on this one, I think I may know why some of the guys in particular didn't care for me. Okay, so I'll give you a quick rundown. Now, you saw the picture of me for the first time a few weeks ago when I was in the 5th grade.
Yes. Didn't realize that you went to school. All this Detroit stuff, I never realized.
Didn't realize it.
Yeah, we've known each other for more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
I just never knew this stuff.
So that photo was taken in Detroit.
Okay.
The school that I attended in Detroit.
Yeah.
So I'll paint the picture for our listener. My glasses were bigger than my face.
Yeah.
Right? I had broken the glasses. I don't know if you can tell on the photo, but there's a piece of tape holding my glasses together right in the middle. I had a cookie bush. What's a cookie bush, you ask? A cookie bush is an inadvertent afro when your mama and them can't afford to get you no haircut. All right? And there was no going to the barbershop back then. Occasionally, because we lived with my grandmother at this time when I was in Detroit. Occasionally, my grandma would turn on the clippers, and then we would have a soup bowl. So do you want a soup bowl or do you want a cookie bush? I'll take the cookie bush for $500, Alex.
Yeah.
Right? So I had this cookie bush. So either case, and I was very small and skinny. I was a very fragile and frail child growing up. Here it is. I'm a safety patrol, brand new. You know, I just do what the teacher tell me to do. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'll do X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Boom, I get recommended to become a safety patrol. After a couple of weeks, the coach, he was pleased with my job. Boom. He made me lieutenant of the safety patrol. Okay. And so now here it is. You know, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do, this, that, and the third. The captain of the safety patrols, his name was Tremaine. Tremaine liked to get in trouble a lot. Teachers had to talk to Tremaine quite often.
And he was the captain? Wow.
Well, one day, Coach got tired of correcting Tremaine's behavior. And Coach said, well, you know what, Tremaine? Give me that badge.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Give me that badge. Octavius, come here. And he handed the captain badge to me.
He set you up.
So now I hold the captain and the lieutenant badge. So I don't know what that made me, but in my head, I was the general.
Oh, Lord.
I got in a fight after school that same day.
Of course. With him?
And 2 of the other guys on the set, they jumped me. His boys, they jumped me. Yeah, I hated living in Detroit.
Wow.
I felt like there was always a target on either myself or my brother. Yeah.
Wow. I lived in Detroit.
Did you really?
Yeah, but as a toddler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall anything about it?
I do.
Okay.
I recall my love of peanut butter kind of came from living in Detroit. Christmas time, I got a Mr. Peanut butter maker.
Okay. Like the Planters peanut guy?
Yes,
okay.
The Planters peanut guy. Yeah. For Christmas. And I just remember being in this big high-rise building or whatever. I think my folks said it was like a mile or more from like where Motown was.
Yep.
So I don't remember a whole lot, but that picture of me on the telephone
that's from Detroit.
Yep.
Oh boy, I tell you, Detroit. Now, interestingly, I did not like my experiences in Detroit.
Yeah.
But Detroit has always been a great city. I've always loved the vibe and the feel of Detroit because I have a lot of family that's still up that way. And so I spent a lot of time back and forth as a younger kid. I have one more Detroit story.
Okay.
Would you like to hear it?
Sure. Here it go.
And I'll give the abbreviated version. So I'm older now. I'm a young man at this point, maybe 21, 22 years old. Working in radio.
Right.
But if you remember, I was also a part of a hip-hop dance group.
I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we would travel quite a bit, performing for different artists in different places. And so we had an opportunity to perform at the Gospel Music Workshop of America workshop this particular year, which was being held in Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So my great-grandmother, who was living at the time, she was extremely well connected throughout the city of Detroit, especially from a political standpoint.
Okay.
So I let her know, Grandma, I'm coming up to Detroit for some business. I want to come and see you, this, that, and the third.
Of course.
And there's another mutual acquaintance you and I both know who called himself a doctor who wrote a book during this time. Dr. Drake.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, where is he going? Oh, I got it now.
And so I was like, Grandma, she was going to have put together a dinner because I was coming up to join and she was going to invite some friends. I said, oh, well, a buddy of mine, he's also an author. He wrote this book. She said, oh, well, I'm going to call these different people and have them come so he can meet them too.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
No problem. Well, an uncle, I never met this uncle a day in my life, but apparently he was my uncle. So early in the day, he decides to take myself, Drake, and my dancing partner around the city, introducing us to these different people, this, that, and the third. Either case, he got us back to my grandmother's house late. So by the time we got back, all these judges and so forth, like big to-do people were there because my great-grandmother said, I want y'all to come meet my grandbaby.
Right.
One of these individuals whom she invited, who came, waited, but because my uncle, I use air quotes, I don't know who this joker was, but he got me in trouble.
Right.
Got us there late.
Yeah.
This guest had to leave early.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when I get there, my great-grandmother tells me, well, baby, where y'all been? Grandma, uncle, so-and-so, this, that, and the third. But I was about, okay, well, listen, I had Mayor Kilpatrick here. He was waiting for you.
Kilpatrick?
Kwame Kilpatrick. He wants you to call him.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Listen, I called at that time Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. When I tell you that man ate me inside out from the rooter to the tutor.
Oh, wow.
On the phone. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Yeah.
He let your boy have it. And the whole time I'm on the phone, I'm like, but I ain't do nothing. It wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And Kwame Kilpatrick was very young at that time, too.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. And then, of course, I think maybe 3 or 4 years later, the whole legal troubles that he got into came to a head. So, I don't have very joyous memories of the city of Detroit. Great city, but I just don't have a whole lot of fond memories of the city of Detroit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't tell too many people that story, especially after the whole
my first time
legal
hearing
stuff.
it. And I'm surprised you never told me that, especially with Kwame Kilpatrick.
Yeah, well, when I found out the man was a gangster, or at least accused of being one, I'm like, I'm gonna keep that story tucked. I don't want to make any enemies.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
You good now?
I'm good now? Okay. All right. Statute of limitations are passed. All right. All right.
Yeah. He done been to jail and everything.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if I just want to recant this whole story now that he's out. I have no clue. Hey, but you're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. 833-758-1065 is the number to call to jump up and tap in on the conversation. Got a lot of different things we're going to discuss, one of which we can go ahead and jump into right now before we go to this first break.
Okay.
Did you see the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see. You didn't miss nothing.
No.
You didn't miss it. You didn't miss a thing. I don't exactly know what I was expecting. I was not expecting to see Iron Mike. I was not expecting to see that whatsoever. Mike Tyson, I believe, is 58 years old. Jake Paul, I think, is in his late 20s. 27. And we did not get Iron Mike. We had Tupperware Mike in the ring. Okay? That was Michael Tyson. That was not Mike Tyson in that ring. Now, from an exhibition standpoint, from, those who are purists when it comes to boxing and things of that nature, the nostalgia, I think, is what got a lot of people hyped up about seeing Mike Tyson get back in the ring. But that was not the same person that was trained by Augusto Mata. Was not. And the Jake Paul, okay, he got the W. And I can't be mad at him for how he's chosen to build this brand for himself as a boxer. But my only qualm is I want to say there's been Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. Did he fight Conor McGregor? I can't recall. But most of the fighters he's getting in the ring with are individuals that are well past their prime.
Right. So that's saying nothing about his actual skills to me. And that's how I felt, even though I didn't watch this fight.
Yep.
But that's how I felt just thinking about it. I'm like, you ain't do nothing, bro.
Yeah.
All you did was fight your grandpa. I mean, come on.
Elder abuse. That's what we witnessed. right. We were witnesses to elder abuse, you know.
Which makes me think it really probably was all just a publicity stunt for publicity, money, and all of that.
I think that's exactly what it was. My mom and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I said, I wouldn't be surprised if in that contract there's a stipulation stating that Jake Paul has to win. If you want to get paid, Jake Paul has to win. Basically, taking a dive on your feet, right? Throwing the fight. Come on. This is his way of creating this brand, this following, this reality for himself, and that's all it is.
It's very fake.
Oh, extremely. I could tell that Mike was pulling quite a few of his punches. Jake as well. I can tell they were holding back. Just watching their stance and when they would throw, I'm like, this is not a real boxing match.
Yeah.
This is I think it was Rocky 3. When Rocky was fighting Hulk Hogan in the ring, and it was like a charity fight or whatever. It was like, come on, man, this is a charity fight.
Right.
Come on. What are we really doing? But, they got paid. I think Mike Tyson said it was a win-win. Okay, hey, if it's a win-win for you, then who am I to say that it wasn't? 833-758-1065. That's the number to call if you'd like to jump on Front Page Jacksonville. We have a lot more coming up in just a moment. We'll see you on the other side.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
Congratulations to the UNF alumnus who is joining an Antarctic expedition with William Shatner, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and former NASA astronauts. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but the 26-year-old Jacksonville native and University of North Florida graduate will be in stellar company with the Star Trek legend himself, William Shatner, renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Apollo astronaut Charlie Duke, and former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly to document a trip to the Antarctic, aiming to highlight the vital connections between the Earth's oceans and the cosmos. Additionally, Lee Gate, I believe it's Gate, could be pronounced Gite, a Jacksonville-based filmmaker who is making a name for himself in the fields of astrospace and science media, was asked to document the Voyage of Legends expeditions to the Antarctic, and is assisting with organizing the trip. The UNF grad said it is an absolute privilege and huge responsibility. The Arctic landscape offers no shortage of stunning footage, but this is the first time we are witnessing so many aerospace legends embarking on something new together. This is truly a special opportunity, but a massive undertaking as well. So congratulations, Lee, with being able to participate in that voyage. Now, I think to me, the voyage itself intrigues me because they're seeking to highlight the vital connection between the Earth's oceans and the cosmos, which on the surface may appear to be two very different, I don't know if you want to call it mass or subject matter or whatever the case may be. But, I kind of, wonder, I kind of navigate these conspiracy theory streets, okay? I roam these conspiracy theory streets a little bit. And one of the theories that's out there is that I chuckle because I recognize some as a listener when you hear this, you may say, okay, Octavius is out of his plum fool mind. But I'm just telling you what they had said out here in these conspiracy theory streets.
Please tell us.
One theory is that space is not up, but is down.
Oh, I never heard that.
You haven't heard
before.
that? Yeah.
No.
There's a theory that the way into outer space is not by, these rockets that we see shooting up in the sky,
right,
but it's actually through the ocean. You haven't heard that?
Never.
Yeah. See, you ain't got no credibility out here in these conspiracy theory streets, Wanda.
I guess I don't.
Yeah. And so for me, when I saw this connection that they're attempting to merge between the Earth's oceans and the cosmos, that's what immediately came to mind for me. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because this is something that people are theorizing. Now, let me state on the front end. Mm-hmm. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because I ain't never been to outer space. Spoiler alert, I ain't never going to no outer space.
Right.
I ain't lost nothing outer space.
Right.
Or inner space. You understand? So whether it's true or not, I don't know. I just like to cruise these conspiracy theory streets.
Yeah.
Right? And staying in this same realm, and Wanda, since you got your mic on, let me ask you, did you hear or have you seen any of the news articles this past week where Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert was questioning about there being supposed alien base hubs in the ocean?
No.
See, the algorithm on my social media is telling on me. So you hadn't seen that either.
I hadn't seen it. And I don't care what comes out of that crazy woman's mouth. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
to me, it's on to the next subject.
Yeah. But see, but
sorry,
it connects.
But it is
connects.
your show.
It all connects. Because even this I found funny on social media this past week, because people were creating content saying, well, the government has pretty much confirmed that there are non-human biological entities,
right,
that are amongst us and have always been amongst us,
right,
in the ocean included. And my initial thought is, if you've ever seen an octopus, that answers that question.
Yeah, because that's kind of an odd looking creature.
That is an odd creature, right?
Pretty scary looking too.
Exactly. And people on social media have been like so nonchalant about it, like their rebuttal has been, okay, but is the rent still high? Do I still have to go to work on Monday? Okay, then cool. I don't care about aliens existing. I don't care about none of that. Right? Because see, here's the other thing. I ain't going down there either.
Right.
I don't care about what's in that ocean.
Hello and amen.
I ain't lost nothing down in that ocean. Okay? I don't care if there are mermaids down there, megalodons.
Right.
I don't care.
I'm going to let it be.
It ain't bothering me. So they not at my doorstep. As long as they're not at my doorstep with their alien behavior.
You almost said something. I caught it. I don't have a beep machine.
Yeah. I caught myself real quick. Yeah. As long as they're not at my doorstep. I don't care what they do.
Okay.
But once again, congratulations to the team from UNF that's heading out to spend some time with those greats, Lee Gates, who's going to spend some time with William Shatner, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Charlie Duke. It almost seems like
I got one question.
Go ahead. Go. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why William Shatner? Neil deGrasse, I get it.
Sure.
He is an actual scientist. The brother is a scientist.
Right.
But why William Shatner? He just plays one on TV.
But you know how we were speaking before the break about Jake Paul and creating content and things of that nature?
Yeah.
I really believe the publicity.
Yeah.
Right? Because, yes, he played a spaceman on TV back in the 70s, maybe the 80s. Right? But there's that nostalgia. Yeah. There's that, if you want to call it credibility, with that audience of people who were Trekkies, I think is what they call them, and all of that good stuff. So I get it. It's he's there more so for from a celebrity appeal,
right?
Not necessarily as the subject matter authority. Yeah. Yeah. How old is William Shatner?
He's got to be close to 90.
Gots to be.
Yeah, and he looks good.
Sure.
To be a senior man, but
that cold weather can't be good for his bones, though, could it?
I'm turning the mic off.
That can't be good for him out there in the Arctic, can it? Arthur live out that way. Arthuritis. I'm sure Arthur got some real estate up in the Antarctic. Can't be good for his joints. Why you leave me high and dry? I'm just asking a question. Oh, my goodness. 833-758-1065 is the number to call if you'd like to jump on Front Page Jacksonville. Shout out to the Sunray Cinema. They have found a new home. Oh, now you want to come back.
Oh, sorry.
Now you want to come back.
Yeah, this was one of my news stories this week. Yeah.
So for those who may not be familiar, Sunray Cinema, I don't recall how long Sunray had been in the Five Points area here in Jacksonville. But
I want to say about 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
That's correct, I think.
Very eclectic type of theater.
Yeah,
right?
Independent films and stuff like that.
As a matter of fact, we partnered, when I say we, my day job, I work with Family Support Services. I think over the summer, we partnered with Hot 106.5 for
I think it was back in June.
A film. Yep.
Yes.
Had an opportunity to do a film screening of The Sound of Hope, I believe is what the film was called, which highlighted some of the realities of kids that are in the system of foster care and getting adopted. Well, the movie itself focuses on a church in a small Texas town where essentially members in the church adopted kids out of the foster care system. And so this film highlights that experience and that journey for them. Right. Well, Sunray Cinema is where we were able to do this film screening. And it was my first time being there.
Being in there, yeah.
And so you can go in and order actual food. They'll bring it to you where you sit and everything. It was kind of dope, know. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the last.
And I was going to say that was the last movie before they permanently closed
their doors.
Yep.
But all is not lost.
Yeah.
They have been able to find a new home in Tampa.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, of all the land this 800 and something miles city has, all the buildings, the vacancy, they couldn't find nothing here?
Yeah. I found it odd as well, especially considering they'll be starting from the ground up.
Yeah.
From name recognition and credibility, new city.
Maybe they just gave them an offer they couldn't refuse, I guess.
Yeah, that's a possibility as well because, the story doesn't give a whole lot of detail.
It really doesn't. And I was just kind of wondering the same thing. When I, made it one of my news stories this week, I'm like, really? Y'all couldn't find nothing here in Jacksonville? But whatever,
Yeah, and then the next question I had was Tampa. Now Tampa is it's a different market, different type of city.
It is.
So I'll be rooting for them. Hope they find success.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do well. I'm thinking maybe they don't have a theater of that type in Tampa, or maybe in a part of Tampa that they're in. I don't know, but I just thought that was very interesting, and maybe the owners have some sort of a connection to Tampa. That was the other thing I thought.
That's a really good point, too.
Yeah.
For all we know, they could potentially be from that way.
Could be.
Don't know.
Yep.
But the new space will feature 10 screens and a massive 4,000 square foot kitchen.
Way bigger than what they had here.
Giving fans more room to enjoy the theater's famed snacks and innovative menu offerings. So kudos to the Sunray Cinema. I wonder if they're going to keep that name. It would make sense to keep the name Sunray Cinema. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to find out more about them, but I'll be watching that story very closely. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning. Hello, caller. Are you there? All right, we'll come back to the phone line in just a moment. Staying right here in Duval County. So this was actually one of my stories last week, but we ran out of time before I was able to highlight it. Well, as you know, earlier this year, the Duval County Public School Board ushered in a new superintendent, Dr. Christopher Bernier. And so apparently the former county, I think it was Lee County, but I'm going to find that out in just a moment. He was previously the superintendent in Lee County. However, there were some reports against him, some concerns that were communicated against him, which ultimately caused him to resign. Well, what were those reports? What were those concerns? Well, Action News Jack's Ben Becker has obtained a confidential report regarding the behavior of our current Duval County School Board Superintendent, Dr. Christopher Bernier, from his time in Lee County. The report was prepared by Cherie Silberman of Empath Employment and HR Law, and it delves into accusations of bullying, disparagement, racial discrimination, a hostile work environment, and claims of unprofessional behavior during his tenure as the Lee County Superintendent. So we're going to see if we can get our caller back on the line. Good morning, caller. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. What's your name?
Ryan Sinclair.
Hey, Ryan, what's going on, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you all?
Doing great. What would you like to talk on this morning?
I was listening to your Detroit story.
Hey, man, Detroit was a rough time, man. You got some Detroit stories?
Well, I grew up in Chicago.
Okay. I didn't know that. I'm originally from Gary, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You probably know my cousin.
Yes, sir.
You know my cousin now?
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah. I know your cousin now.
Yeah. Well, you was talking about your misadventures. I was a drum student at 8 years old. And I had to go to the drum class at Line and Healy, which was downtown. And I rode the L from my house to the class with my drum. And every day after drum class, I'd run back up on the L tracks and jump on the first train.
Yep.
And it was always the wrong train.
What? Was that by...
I was downtown in the loop.
Yeah, okay.
So the train, the north-south train come, the west-side train come, all the trains would go there. And I didn't know that you were supposed to wait for a certain spot for the train you're supposed to be on.
Right. Because you're 8 years old at the time.
There. Yeah, I was 8. And so I run up there and jump on that train, and then it kept going straight instead of turning. And I was like, oh, no, I don't know where they going.
Wow.
And then I'd ride to the end of the line. And I didn't know that I could just go to the other side and catch a train back.
Right.
So I would get off the train with my drum and walk back home following the L track.
Wow.
So while I was walking, I was like, okay, I'll practice. So I put my drum on and just march down the street drumming.
Wow.
Following the train track. And so after a while, they told me, here come that little boy who think he in a parade. Every Saturday.
Little did they know you were just trying to get home.
Every Saturday. And so I'm telling Octavius, this might have been a 9-mile walk.
Wow.
I rode to the end of the line. And then I had to follow the tracks that was going toward my house.
Right.
So I got out of class probably 12. I get home about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Wow. Now that's a long way, Ryan. Were parents concerned when you got home? What were your parents' thoughts?
Kids could be outside, and I was an outside kid, so they thought I just came home and went somewhere, and I was around the neighborhood.
Wow.
I didn't want to tell them I got lost.
Well,
they would have took me. I wouldn't have been able to go to class.
Well, you found your way home, and that's kind of how it was back in the day, man. I tell my buddies now, we talk all the time about just how our survival instincts were sharpened through childhood. Because, there were no cell phones. There was no, GPS tracking. No. You better find your way home. Man.
I got it right on the last day of class.
And now, how long was that program that you were part of?
It was probably about 8 weeks. When you had classes, if you was in the classroom setting, it was 8 weeks.
Okay.
So that's when he told me he don't need these. He need private lessons because he's playing. He don't need it. And so that honed my skills, my marching.
You said and your marching, huh?
And my marching. So that's what I did. Then we moved to the north side. And I was a patrol boy. I was here you talking about that.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
And so if somebody had to go home from school, the patrol boys had to escort them home and come back to the school.
Mm. Wow.
And this was my first week on the north side. And they sent me to take this boy home.
Now, and I'm guessing, were you supposed to be on the north side from a neighborhood standpoint?
Yes, that's where I lived.
Okay.
I lived on the north side then. But we had just moved there.
So you know you like that.
I didn't know no streets, no nothing.
Uh-huh.
So when I took him home, he didn't go down the streets. He went, cut through alleys and under the train track. I had no idea how to get back to the school.
Wow.
They reported that I had ran away.
Man. Yeah, you got an interesting childhood there, Ryan. But let me ask you this. On those safety patrol walks, did it hone your fighting skills, though?
Well, no, it was that. It was, them guys bothered people who they knew.
Yeah.
I walked through game bangs, they tell me, no, man, he don't mess around. He in school, leave that little boy alone. Stuff like that.
Yep.
And, it was a little different kind of code for game bangs and stuff when I grew up. They would only fight rivals, Now, I had some fights because we just moved over there. But, this guy thought, you think you bad with them big old shoulders? Because I had this coat, and I don't know why my mother found this jacket with the shoulder pads in it.
Not you walking around looking like show enough.
Yeah, they come out, man. You think you bad with them big old shoulders? And, again, we had just moved over there. I didn't know this guy.
Sure.
And he wanted to fight. And I was like, man. And I was scared because I had seen a couple of fights. And whoever hits the ground, the whole school started kicking him.
Oh, man.
So I'm not going to the ground.
Right.
So my man come up on me and all that. And my older brother gave me a roll of dimes.
Oh, man.
So you put this roll of dimes in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for them bad boys. So I gave him 2 of them roll of dimes across his forehead, and he went down.
So he was the one on the ground. Did the school jump in?
Yeah, they jumped in.
Oh, man.
And then I found out later, everybody wanted to jump in because he was the bully that everybody was scared of. But since I was new, I wasn't scared. So that's how he would win, because they were scared of him and his brothers.
Right.
But I didn't know them. So this guy wanted to fight, and I seen what happened when you hit the ground. I'm not hitting the ground. So he was just sacrificing.
Hey, well, man, I'm glad you made it through your misadventures there in Chicago. If you, the listener, if you are not familiar with who Ryan Sinclair is, Ryan is one of the baddest drummers in the state of Florida. And to make it more specific, one of the baddest African drummers, West African drummers in the state of Florida.
Yep. Hey, Ryan. Yeah, we love Ryan. He is
How you doing, Wanda?
Great to hear your voice this morning.
It was great to hear y'all. Y'all having a ball up there, man. I want to play.
Hey.
Yeah, one of these days you got to come to the studio.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, Ryan, man, we appreciate you hanging out with us today here on Front Page Jacksonville.
All right, Doctor. Y'all have a great day.
All right, brother. You too. Have a great day.
All right, peace.
Peace.
More is coming up on the other side of the break. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on Hot 106.5.
Welcome back to Front Page Jacksonville. Before the break, I was mentioning about a situation that the current Duval County School Board Superintendent found himself in when he was the superintendent for Lees County. So there was a report that was filed with Cherie Silberman of Empath Employment and HR Law. The accusations against Dr. Christopher Brenier extends from bullying, disparagement, racial discrimination, creating a hostile work environment, and other claims of unprofessional behavior during his tenure there in Lee County. Additionally, some female employees shared that there were some concerns surrounding racism and sexism. However, those claims were unsubstantiated. The report that was created with all those different accusations was provided to the Duval County School Board before they finalized their decision. But I can't say one of the things because there's like 6 or 7 different accusations here. But these were some of the different concerns that members had when it was found out that Dr. Brenier was previously in Lee County, that his tenure was abruptly ended. But the Duval County Public School Board decided to still extend the job to him as our new superintendent. And not just extend it, but if you remember, he also came with a list of, I'll call them considerations. I'll call them considerations. Mm-hmm. I don't recall the exact dollar amount for the salary, but I think
it was $350,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So that does jive with what I had in my mind. Because I think the initial salary offering was $300. He countered.
I think that's
want
what Dr. Diana Green left at $300. Right.
Correct. Mm-hmm. He countered with $350. Right. In addition to that, he requested allowances, I believe, for like transportation. Right, yep. And things of that nature.
Yep.
Now, Duval County School Board, there was some negotiating to go on. I don't think he got the $350. I think it was more like $315, $325.
I think he got $325.
Yeah, I believe that's what they settled on. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, I'm a firm believer that everyone should be given an opportunity to learn from their past or mistakes, however you want to position it. And so I'm curious to see how he's going to handle things in his position here in Duval County. However, I'm also a firm believer that people do not leave jobs. People leave bad supervisors and bad managers. As someone who not only holds a similar title in my day job, but I have experienced hostile work environments. They are not fun. Toxic is an understatement oftentimes.
Right.
I'll tell a quick story without giving any names. I used to be the marketing director, a marketing manager for an African-American museum. Wanda turns off her mic again. Why do you always leave me, Wanda? I'm not saying any names. But I used to be the marketing manager for an African-American museum that seats 400 people in its theater. But I'm not saying any names. There used to be a director who created a very toxic and hostile work environment in that facility. It wasn't just directed at myself, it was directed at everyone within that facility. Oh, and it's very important to highlight, the director was not African American. But everyone who experienced the toxicity was. And so what would happen, we would have these powwows. Now, you know how we powwow. Now, y'all know how we powwow. Meetings after the meeting. Y'all know how we do. And so one day I said, hey, look, we can talk about it or we can be about it. What y'all want to do? We can go to HR. We can go to the general manager. What's up? What y'all want to do? So that's what we did. filed a claim, meetings were had, investigations were done, and the person resigned from their position but got a promotion in a different city with the same company. So I say that to say I don't necessarily take lightly what I see from the report that came from Lee County with our current superintendent in Duval County Public Schools.
Absolutely.
But what I will say is,
much like your situation, he got a promotion.
He got a promotion.
Oops. I'll turn my mic off.
And so I'm going to be monitoring closely because here's something else I also believe. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And you can change a job, but if you have not changed character, if you have not changed behaviors, those things are going to arise again. And if a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, we see similar claims as what Lee County experienced, then Duval County Public School Board, we got to have some conversations about what's really going on because our teachers are already dealing with a lot in the classroom. The educational landscape in Duval County is already on shaky ground. And one of the last things that we need is shaky leadership.
Right. Amen.
Just amen.
Yeah, amen. Yeah. I mean, I felt some kind of way about them going forward. And I'm sitting here, to me, looking sideways at the black members of the board. Not to call y'all out, but come on now, really?
Sure.
Because had Dr. Diana Green had these disparaging things in her background, she would never have been chosen. So we always have to be perfect and stellar to get chosen. And then he has the nerve to have all this sketchy behavior, quit the job. Oh, and you forgot to mention the part about went on and got a house before he even got made it down to the selection pool. Got a house here.
Already purchased a house here.
Yes, that's what they had said.
So you think he got inside information?
I'm not saying that. I don't know. But what I am saying is that part of this is privilege. Because, again, had it been you or any of us in this room, we would never have been considered or been in the selection pool. You know what I'm saying? So, but the fact is he did. And now he's here and that investigation has finished and all that. And, well, we're still stuck with him. But anyway.
You're listening to WHJX Ponte Vedra Beach, Hot 106.5 FM, the home of Front Page Jacksonville. I'm your host, Octavius Davis. You heard Wanda mention just a moment ago, all of us here in the studio. Well, let me introduce you to the us that she's referring to. Right now, we are joined in the studio by Carlos and Anita Spencer, one of the preeminent, affluent African-American power couples here in the city of Jacksonville. Good morning to Anita. Like, well, hold on. I don't put all that pressure over. The pressure is on. The pressure is on.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great day, beautiful people.
Absolutely. Do we have them hot? All right, very good. Well, welcome to Front Page Jacksonville. Of course, the two of you just heard Wanda and I just bantering back and forth just briefly on the recent report that was released regarding the Duval County Public School Superintendent, Dr. Bernier. And so we brought you on to the show today so we can kind of delve into some of the complexities within the African-American community. But before we dive into that, I want to do a quick introduction because I said your names, but the people need to know who you is. Okay? So if you don't mind, Carlos, let's start with the lady, if we may.
No doubt.
I am Anita Spencer. I am an entrepreneur, a writer, a community activist. I am trying to be a beacon of light for our people, and that's very, very important to me. Mom, wife, grandmother, that type of thing.
Oh, come on. Now, see, I'm a pop. And see, what I'm loving about this new era of grands is we don't look like grands.
No,
we don't move like grands. Now, my grandmama was a grandmama, okay? I love Yvonne Davis, but let me tell you something. That woman was mean as a rattlesnake. I wish I might have seen my grandma doing some TikToks. And no, she wasn't gonna do it. All right.
Right.
But this era of grands, I'm definitely loving the youthfulness
Absolutely.
that we're bringing to the stage. And so, Anita, if you would, we're going to shift now to your husband, your king, Mr. Spencer. Talk to the people. Who are you, sir?
Good morning, beautiful people. My name is Carlos Spencer. Also, community activist, grandfather, just an all-around cool dude.
Yeah.
But most people know me as one part of the platinum rap group 95 South, Jacksonville's first platinum rap group.
Huh? Say it again.
Jacksonville's first platinum rap group.
Yes, sir.
You know, and just grateful to be here. Had a chance to travel around the world, learn some amazing things.
Sure.
And I'm just glad to be here this morning.
Well, glad to have you here with us today. A lot of great things that we can go into, few different directions that we can go into. But I want to circle back to something, because when I was mentioning about my time as the marketing manager at a unnamed African American museum. You made a facial expression, Anita. But let's start there without stating names. And if you're from Jacksonville, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what I'm referring to in terms of venue. But let's start there in terms of speaking about here in the city of Jacksonville. Anyone who's familiar with the history, especially the history in La Villa, redlining and things of that nature that was intentionally put in place to hold us back. In your activism, because if I'm not mistaken, you were also part founder with the Melanin Market.
Actually, I'm one of the members of the Melanin Market. It was Angie Nixon and Don Curling. They are the founders of the Melanin Market. So I'm there. I've been there since they started. And so once Angie left and shifted, then I moved in as a VP. So that's kind of what we've been doing, and just trying to make it happen for our people.
So in building for our people, let's start there with the Melanin Market. Why is the Melanin Market so necessary for the African American community, especially when spaces that were originally intended for us decisions aren't being made by us in those spaces?
I think what's important is to highlight Black businesses.
Yeah.
Our Black businesses are just so important to our people. One of the things I share with everyone at the Melanin Market is that when you support a Black business, you support a Black family. Families create communities, communities create empires, and empires create dynasties. They do not want us to be back in our dynasty state. It is important when you have 2% of the businesses owned by Black people. We can't live off 2% of our income. So when sometimes people say, well, why does it have to be melanin? Because we want to highlight what's not being highlighted. And sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's not always about the business is. It's about the showing people that we're going to support this group, because this group has not been supported the way they need to, especially in Duval County.
Now, let's talk about support, because oftentimes we hear people say, oh, well, people don't support. I got this business going on. I posted on Facebook. Ain't nobody bought XYZ. But support can manifest itself in several different ways. Right. But when you say support, what do you mean when you say supporting Black business?
I mean, support is intentional. Mm-hmm. I mean, intentionally going to these businesses and doing business with them. I think that, and if you have an issue with something, if you have an issue with the attitude of the person in the front, or if you have an issue with, the bathroom is not, I feel like get in touch with the manager and say to them, hey, I just experienced this. And if then you go back and it still persists, now you can take your money elsewhere, but at least give us an opportunity. We're so hard on each other. Yeah. But the reason we're so hard on each other, because they've been so hard on us.
Right.
So I feel like that's why we don't give each other the chance that we need. We'll go into anybody else's business and it could have dirt on the floor. It could be a mess, and we'll just navigate through it. But Black people, like she said earlier, we got to be perfect. We got to be stellar. We can't have anything out of place. And I think that we need to reflect and look at that as people, as people of color, period.
Yeah. With the installation of the Melanin Market, number one, let me ask, are those? Is the market still happening on a regular basis?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Our next market is going to be November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So Small Business Saturday will be
Perfect
right
timing.
back out there. Yep.
What type of growth, to your knowledge, what type of growth have those businesses seen that are participating in the melanin market on a regular basis?
Oh my goodness, tons of growth because we give out grants every market. We've had people who had started in the melanin market with a table. Now they're brick and mortar. So we've seen amazing and tremendous growth.
I did not realize that you all were giving out grants.
Yes, we give out grants. We give out $1,000. We give out. Last time, I think we gave out 10 $1,000 grants to 10 different businesses. So every market, we have different sponsors, whether it be Coke or United Way, that gives us, and we give right back to the community.
Wow. Now, Carlos, you're coming at this from a completely different perspective when you speak about an African-American business, so to speak, because you were in the music industry.
Right.
And so when you speak about support from the African-American community, as you mentioned, one of the first platinum rap groups from the city of Jacksonville, having an opportunity to tour the world and be exposed to many different things. Through that exposure, what have you seen in your travels as it relates to African-American business involvement?
We've seen a lot because it starts in the street. You know, it starts grassroots, and, you know, in the music industry, you know, you want to say, you know, black radio, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of support from black radio has catapulted us to different levels. And also with businesses, you know, sponsoring music artists, things of that nature. We saw a lot of that, you know, grassroots. I can go back to brother like Charles Scantlin, who owned Jazzco.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard, you weren't supposed to know. You know, he was one of the first promoters to actually put us out there. Brother James Brake, and both of those brothers were business owners. So in the beginning, they had the capital and the resources. They kind of helped catapult us to the next level. And then in return, we would do the same thing, going in. At that time, there were black record stores, you know, Big Al's and things of that nature. We would go in, and, you know, it was just a reciprocal relationship. So, to be honest, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, the beginnings of black businesses helping artists, you know, a lot of us wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah. And, you know, man, 95 South, you all's music was the soundtrack to every house party that I was a part of back in the 90s. Huh?
Yes.
I'm talking middle school and high school. I went to Sandalwood High School. And I shared with him jokingly, but I was being serious. I've caught many victims off 95 South music. Huh? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, a lot of let the smooth taste fool them, but I'm kind of nice when it comes to whooping.
Okay. We got a whoop master now.
I'm kind of good. I'm kind of good when it comes to that. So your music was a catalyst to a lot of that. But I remember that era, man. There was no social media.
None.
You mentioned black radio. Radio was so pivotal during that time. I remember Doc Brown.
Yes.
You know,
yes, Doc.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I remember going to Club Carousel, hearing you all's music, you know, during that time. So from that era and seeing how music seemingly grew organically, became popular organically. And I say seemingly because I know on the business side there was some moving and shaking going on. Compared to what you see today, how vastly different has the music industry shifted when you speak about support within the African American community?
There's been a tremendous shift. You know, again, like you say, with social media, it just gives you access to so many people so fast. Yeah. Because, again, back in the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, we had to get it from the muscle. There was no, like you say, social media. There was some radio stations that wouldn't play our music because we said one word in our music. So we had to find ways to maneuver around that. But again, creating amazing music, timeless music, it has stood the test of time. And when you have great music coming right out of the studio, it's undeniable. Yep. So for those places that wouldn't allow us in, or that, you know, thought that the music was too gritty or street, there were ways to get around that, and it all started with support of just our grassroots, you know, audience. And if the street says hot, then it's hot everywhere else. Yeah. You know, and so that's where we were able to win.
Now, the both of you are very creative. Just looking at Anita's attire, you can tell that you are a creative butterfly.
No doubt.
Right, within everything you do. So, Carlos, your bent is more on the music side. Anita, we spoke briefly about Melanin Market, but you also are in the role of filmmaking and things of that nature as well. So from your perspective, what are you seeing through your lens of creativity when it comes to African Americans maneuvering in that space?
I see us telling some different stories. And I came from the music industry as well. So I worked for Motown Records for many years and Tommy Boy Records back in the day. So the industry is doing a shift. I think it needs a reset, actually. And I think it's getting that reset right now.
Yep.
And I think it's time to tell our stories differently, I think, in what we're doing and how we're moving. And so I'm going to shift into that by saying and answering your question that you put out on the video is about our being comfortable and complacent.
Yeah.
So I truly believe with this shift that's happening, it's time for a new conversation. I believe that Black America has gotten too comfortable, too complacent, and lazy in the dominant society's house.
No. Break that down. In the dominant society's house. What do you mean by that?
And what I mean by basically is we have gotten too comfortable, complacent, and lazy in the white man's house. We forgot who we were, so we didn't share it with our children. There's at least 2 generations that the ball has been dropped on them. I feel like it's time for us to change the conversation. We have wrapped ourselves in the suffering of our ancestors. And we don't even celebrate our ancestors.
Yeah.
You can't get mad at DeSantis for pulling history out of the schools, and you don't even teach your own history in your homes. Kids don't even know who their great-granddaddy and their great-great-granddaddy is.
Yeah.
You can't be mad that someone's pulling books and banning books, and you don't even read books. You don't even have books in your house. We have to change the conversation because the things that have plagued us from the past, they no longer plague us. So again, as we wrap ourselves in our ancestors' suffering, we can no longer continue to feel like people, we are entitled to certain things. There are things that are owed to us, absolutely, but there's a lot of things that we're not entitled to, and I think Black America, it's time to shift the conversations. When this election happened, a lot of people was upset, they were sad, they were going through all of these emotions, and as my husband always says, pull your emotions out of this. Politics is business. This is business. And the thing about it is that the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, none of them have ever liked us, and they've never done anything for us.
Right.
So we are trying to navigate through things that we shouldn't even be navigating through. We need to come together. There was a time when we loved on each other. We cared for each other. We spent money with each other. We educated ourselves better.
We didn't have to lock our doors.
We didn't have to, things like that.
Yeah.
So when you look at those times, there was a different time for us. And I think some of these things, we have to go back to some basics. And so for us as parents, we are parents of 11 children. We have 10 grandkids.
Congratulations.
So thank you.
Yeah.
So our thing is teaching our kids who they are and who their people are. Everything starts in the home.
Yep.
So when I hear people say, Black women, I don't play, and my mama don't play, well, someone's playing because down there in downtown in Duval County jails, it's a bunch of people coming, and they are not coming from anyone else's houses but ours.
Right. Now, hold on. Give us a minute to breathe, Anita. Hold up.
I'm just saying.
We got work to do. And I know,
got work to do.
And I know we're going to ruffle some feathers this morning, but the conversation needs to be had.
Yeah. And so you referenced the election a moment ago, and I want to rewind there because a few weeks ago, Wanda and I, we had a spirited debate here in the studio on the show. And speaking specifically about the election, my position was that, okay, well, we've been voting for 60 years and ain't nothing changed. And I was like, well, I'm not necessarily buying into the voting dynamic as being the catalyst that's going to bring about the change for us.
That's right.
Now, to be fair to my sister, because she ain't got the microphone right now. Thank you, because she ain't got a microphone. Thank you. Right. To her point, she said, well, it can't be voting in and of itself. There's more we have to do in addition to voting.
That's right.
I absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree. Mm-hmm. Right. And so voting when you think about that ... what additional should we be focusing on within the African American community if we want to see that larger scope of change, whether it be with elected officials or right here in our very own community?
I think it's voting and organizing, voting and writing checks. It's voting and just making sure that we know how to vote and with that instruction, because again, people create super PACs.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So many people are just telling us vote, and a lot of us are still excited about having the privilege to vote because we hadn't always had it. But how do you vote? Yeah. How do you pool those votes? How do you give those votes to a lobbyist or a politician to go in and fight and leverage your votes for the things that you want? And saying those are the things that we're missing here. Each individual vote counts, but if they're scattered out and not targeted or directed towards an end goal, then we lose.
Yeah.
Because again, 20, 30 million votes in the hands of the right person going in. Now, we may not win, but we can leverage and get things that we need for our communities with those votes, and that's what we're missing. That's what we're missing.
Yep.
And I think as Black people, again, we hadn't always had the privilege to vote. But now that we have it, we have to know what to do and how to move with it, because other people, they coming to win.
Yeah.
They playing the game to win, and we playing to play, and they coming to eat our lunch. And I just think we have to really look at that and organize a lot better.
Yes, and I think that also knowing what we want when people say things like, we want equality. Well, what does that look like? We want justice. What does that look like? Like, I know that there's things right now that I know that Black people should have. They owe us. First and foremost, we need to be tax exempt. We should not have to pay another tax for at least 500 years. Mm-hmm. We should be able to go to any higher institution of learning for absolutely free. We will take those 40 acres. We don't need a mule. We'll take a John Deere.
That's
You know what I mean? We'll take that. You know what I mean?
My wife would love a John Deere. Let me tell you.
Exactly.
That woman knows she loves being outside in nature.
And that's what I'm saying. We have to be a sovereign nation. I think most importantly, knowing what we want. I think when you start asking, again, we don't have to live together. We don't even have to like each other, but our end goal has to be the same.
Right. You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. We shaking tables in the studio this morning. We got Carlos and Anita Spencer. We're gonna take a quick break. Once we come back from the break, we're gonna continue along this conversation as well as take your calls. We have a caller on the line now. Hold on with us through the break if you'd like to tap in on the conversation. 833-758-1065 is the number to call. This is Front Page Jacksonville. We'll be back in a moment.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on High 106.5.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Now, if you're familiar with those lyrics, this is a spiritual, a hymn that many sang during the civil rights movement. I remember earlier in the show, I referenced living in Detroit. I remember while in Detroit, I was in a school play. I played Martin Luther the King. and we had to sing this song. But for so long, we have been singing about wanting to overcome someday. But here in the studio with me today, Carlos and Anita Spencer are saying that, well, actually, we should have overcame yesterday, not someday. And the conversation has been very poignant on many different topics. We're going to the phone line right now. We have Ryan joining us. Ryan, welcome back. What would you like to share on the conversation?
Man, you have the icons. I sent a text now. I don't know if you can get the text. But I disagree with Anita talking about she's trying to be a beacon of light. You need to spit the trying out. You are a beacon of light. So I disagree with anybody who said they trying. I've never tried anything. I've either done it or I haven't done it.
There you go.
But on the topic of us, and then you had something in the wrong order. You said vote and I think vote should be the last thing, because it should be organized, educate, communicate, and come together, and then vote. You know, I've talked to a bunch of folks. I talked to a lot of people that have ran for office, and they looked at it as a loss because they didn't win the position. But I said, what I know from the movement, I grew up in the movement. I'm a push baby. And what I know is that if you got 1,800 people that voted for you, that's your leverage to go and talk to them people. Look, I got 1,800 registered voters, and I'm getting more every day that's willing to do so. So what we want y'all to put on the table is just that and the other.
And leverage.
I learned a lot in the movement about organizing and using what we got as our leverage. You know, we closed Coca-Cola, we closed Nike, we closed Macy's food stores in Chicago, and it was merely the fact that every time we had anything going on, we had a voters registration table at any event we had.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to folks in Jacksonville, I'm like, you need to call and get a voters registration table at all your events. Because what happens is when you're registering voters now, the people want to know what you want.
Right.
You know, if y'all just running around mad and screaming, they give less than a good hot chocolate about that. Say I got 200-300 registered voters willing to come down here. You know, and so, and you know, a lot of stuff is what Anita alluded to. We've been taught to not like us. You know, I was in a play called "How Cold Is Your Ice?"
Right. Right.
One of the things, the characters was standing in front of mom and pop store, who was a black couple. Talking about they were standing in front of their ice machine, and they said, "We finna go down to Bubba's, get us some ice." It's like, "You standing right in front of my ice machine." And one of the lines, I guess they think the white people ice is colder, and they were taught that, you know. And
Absolutely.
It was that same thing that Anita said. They went down to the Bubba, who was from somewhere else, and they walked in. "What you want, nigga?" "Oh, man, I'm here." And, you know, they engaged in all the ghetto slang, and they just love that stuff. And then they went to mom and pop store talking about, "Why the lights so dim?" You know, so they can't turn the lights on if you don't buy nothing from them. You know, and like I said, like Anita said, go and talk to them. You know, don't talk about them, talk to them.
Right. And Ryan, thank you so much for your comment, because Carlos, he brings up a really good point based on something we were discussing. Ryan made mention about, okay, I just want to kind of reposition how you have vote. Vote should come on the back end after all these other things have been put in place. And that's similar to what you were saying before we went to break. So here's the question. And Ryan, thank you for your call. Here's the question. What do we want as a community? What do we want? I did this exercise on my social media a few months back, and I posed the question, if someone came to you right now and deposited $1 million into your bank account, what would you buy? Be as specific as you can. Well, I'll buy a house. Well, I'll get a new car. Yeah, but what kind of car?
Right.
What color?
Right.
What kind of house? Where would it be? 2-story, 1-story? Would it be here in Florida? Would it be elsewhere? And what I found is when you hold people to task, there aren't a whole lot of specifics that they can give. So,
I think we haven't been taught to be specific. I think we've been taught to be just kind of believe what's happening, be just long as we kind of know a little bit about what's going on, but we don't fully know what's happening. So we're never really fully engaged so that we can answer those specific questions because, again, when I go back, the first thing I know is that black people should be tax exempt. We should not have to pay another tax for at least 500 years. I think those kind of specifics is very important because, again, $1 million, first of all, is not a lot of money.
Right.
That's the first thing. So, because I'm going to give most of that away.
In
you
taxes.
know,
Yep.
and then after the taxes, then I'm going to give it away some more to the
Yep.
people in our community because
Yep.
that's what you do. So I think as people, when we start looking at leveraging what we have, there was a time when we had a voter's block. Even when we go back to Shirley Chisholm when she ran in 1972, the women's lib movement didn't want her because she was black, and the black people didn't want her because she was a woman. So she said, I know I'm not going to win, but I want to take my delegates and get something for our people.
Yeah.
I think right now in the position that we're in America, we need to use what we have. You have 62 million new Hispanic voters who are in here, they're voting. It's only 47 million of us. And a quick story. Last year we were in Africa, and so we were telling them that there's 47 million black Americans and we only have about 7 black-owned grocery stores. And the first thing he said to me is, how do you eat? I said, well, we rely on them and their resources. He said, but what if they pull the rug from under you? I said, I have no question of what's going to happen to my people if they do that.
Right.
So the fact that someone asked me that, and I'm sharing this with people today, that shows me that we have to get ourselves together on a whole nother level, because the Hispanics and Asians now outnumber us. We are now put in a place of a permanent underclass.
Yep.
And there's not going to be any way. The only people that's going to get black people out of this position is black people.
Yeah. Because if you notice, I think a few years back, I noticed this. I'm like, during election season, I never see politicians pandering to the Asian community.
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
Because they already lobbied, they already put their money together, they create their super PAC, and they getting what they want.
Exactly.
Arabs do the same thing, Hispanics do the same thing. We're the only ones running around disorganized and not getting what we need, and everybody else is coming and eating our lunch.
Yep.
And that's why you see the majority of black people in our prison systems, because again, you got more people in the prison and penal system there was enslaved in 1851. That's a fact. So that shows you that we don't own the businesses like we used to, because there was a time when the numbers were shifted.
Yeah.
There was a whole different time. When we owned businesses, we were not in jail as much as we are now. We only own 2% of the business. 98% of our people are gone in jail. So when I travel the world, like my husband says, and I go to the different Caribbean islands and places like that, and sometimes I'll walk out on the beach and I'm like, wow, why is there so many men on this beach? I've never seen this many men, because in America, they're wiping them off the street and we don't even realize what they're doing.
And that's a direct correlation of who owns and operate their businesses.
Absolutely.
You go to jail, you don't see Asians in a big number in jail. You don't see Hispanics or Arabs in there because they own and operate their businesses. You know.
Anita, at the top of the hour, there was a phrase that you used. I'm going to have to paraphrase because I don't remember how you said it, but essentially you said, we're fighting things that are no longer a reality for us to have to fight. Again, paraphrasing, right?
Yes.
That wasn't your exact words. And a moment ago, I quoted the opening stands of We Shall Overcome, right? 60 years ago, so much has changed in the past 60 years, right? We briefly spoke about desegregation. We briefly spoke about how social media has drastically changed things in entertainment and what have you. So many of the plight that many of us as African Americans have often referred to as to why this isn't happening because of this can't happen because of that. How much of that is just in our head because of this is how we've always known it to be, a phantom rather, and how much of that is reality standing right here in front of us?
You want to answer that, babe?
I think it's both, you know, because again, we talked about not feeling good about ourselves, you know, and we have low racial esteem. You know, we haven't experienced the love from outside as well as the love from inside, because we've been socialized to think of ourselves a certain way. And, you know, when you don't love yourself as a people, we can't move properly. You know, and we don't all have to like each other, but again, we all have to have the same end goal. You know, so for me, it's just a matter of finding out who we are, for one, going back to getting out the root of who we are, loving ourselves, and then at that point, we can, you know, move forward the way we need to. You know?
And I'll position that a different way. So I've been called the N-word by more people who look like me than not. I have a great career, make a great income. I can go into just about any store that I want, get service, no problem. Whether it's top-notch service or not, that's a reflection of the establishment itself. Can go to any school that I choose to. My children, my grandchildren now, can go to any school they want. My wife, she just graduated with her master's, preparing to get her doctorate. Any school of her choice. Don't have to rely on affirmative action. Don't have to rely on DIE, right? DEI. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the playing field was not leveled.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right.
In today's day and time, as I look across the landscape of what we say we want as African Americans, I see, to me, and again, Octavius is only speaking about my experience. I recognize that we all are experiencing life from a different perspective. I see more economic disparity than I experience racial disparity. And so that being my experience, I don't want to necessarily blanket that and say that for all African Americans across the country, there is no more racism. No, I'm not that ignorant. I'm silly, not ignorant. But the economic disparity seems to be one of the main catalysts that we as a people have to look at leveraging within our own communities first, because I can't say the first thing I was going to say, but I will say this: the government is not coming to save us
at all.
So we have to save ourselves.
That's right.
And so with the economic disparity, if we just simply start there. We were speaking off mic during the break about how long the African American dollar stays in the community. Do you say 6 hours?
6 hours.
6 hours.
Wow.
It used to stay in our community for 5 years. That means that we intentionally went from one place to another, spending with people that look like us. I saw some posts right after the election the next day, and people were saying things like, well, I better run out and go get me some lunch before they start putting up white-only signs, right? And my thing is, well, you should have been going to a black business in the first place.
Right.
That's my whole thing. That even shouldn't have been a thing for
concern,
you know what I mean? I even when I talk to people like, my doctor is white, I think I'm going to change my doctor. You should have had a black doctor the whole time.
Sure.
You understand what I mean? Yep. So when I hear this, again, those people, that's the mentality of seeing everything through white eyes.
Sure.
So for me, because they took the signs down and now we can eat with people, go to the bathroom, live next door to them, sleep with them, we feel like somehow people liked us. We dropped the ball on that because we should have still been teaching our kids who were coming behind us who was who.
Yeah.
And who we're dealing with. Because I think sometimes people feel like, again, because we're under the illusion of inclusion. We've been under the illusion for inclusion ever since those signs came down. So I feel like as a people, it is time for us to shift and change the conversation. It's not about Kamala. It's not about Trump. It's not about any of those. It's about us.
Right.
It's about what we are going to do as a people now. Because again, a white person isn't white until a black person walk in the room. Before that, they're Jewish, Polish, Irish. They're all these different things. As soon as we go in the room, they go into code. They all become white. And now we're all against that black person over there. We got to understand these types of things that are happening to us and what's going on so that we can change what we're doing. And we're not going to reach everybody. It's always going to be collaborators. It will always be people who is going to collaborate. But to your point, we now there's no place that black people can go. There's no place on earth that we are not. So now economically, that's something completely different because see, prejudice and racism is two different things.
Right.
People get it confused.
Right.
Just because I don't like somebody, it doesn't mean that I have the power to make and maintain and shift their lives. See, racism is a power dynamic. You understand? So we have to understand that dynamic. Just because I don't like you, I don't like rats and roaches. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Right. At the end of the day, we got to understand that dynamic. And I think as people, we got to come. And the first thing I feel like we got to do is we got to establish who's black. See, I'm a foundational Black American. My people helped build this country. I have a picture of my grandfather at home. He was born in 1841. He was 24 years old when slavery ended. When I think about people talking about the N-word, if that's the only insult you have for me, who cares? I'll take it. Considering what our people, exactly. Considering what our people have been through, that's all you got. Bring it, because again, I'm like Martin Luther King. I'm not scared of any man or any woman. What are you going to do to me that you haven't already done? So I'm not, when people talking about they're going to take us back to, they're not taking us back to slavery. Some of us are already still in the slave mind.
Absolutely.
And that's why Harriet couldn't free everybody, because they didn't even know they were slaves. So we got to understand that mentality of people and what's happening to our people so that we can propel ourselves forward. Know what we want. Start in your house. Everything in your house has to be a reflection of you. And then when you're sitting around the conversations on the weekend, when you're sitting around Thanksgiving, start talking about wealth. Start talking about how we're going to move our family's legacy forward. It starts there.
And in regards to money, you know, Black folk, we got money. We just doing the wrong things with it. You know, and I think that, again, there's external issues, but there's also internal issues and what we call inappropriate behavior patterns. Talking about the ice. You know, you'll walk past someone who look like you, ice, to go buy the ice up the street. We have to be intentional with our dollars. And we have to aggregate, you know, we have to practice functional pluralism, you know, pooling our resources and things of that nature. So, because again, you know, we pay for what we want and beg for what we need.
That's right. That's
you
right.
know,
Man, have you patented that phrase, my brother?
I have it. It's a t-shirt.
That's a t-shirt, my boy.
Let's do it, bro. We pay for what we want and beg for what we need, you know. When you talk about money, you know, people around here, you know, they may not have the best, you know, of everything, but at the same time, we can take our money and do things differently with it.
They raised within 72 hours for Kamala Harris almost $90 million. We got money. We are the largest consumer class in America. That's how we stop them. If we stop shopping for a week, we can bankrupt some of these companies.
Absolutely.
But we chose not to. We are not. We got the numbers of people. We got the money. We are just out organized.
I was talking to my homeboy Alan Bird. He was like, you know, we raised $90 million. Why not bust that down into 20,000 parcels and give micro grants to Black businesses? You know, but all we got was a concert and a Beyonce speech.
Oh man, don't get me started on that.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, so the money is not the problem. We just got inappropriate behavior patterns, and those are conversations we can have around our kitchen tables.
833-758-1065 is the number to call if you'd like to join the conversation. This is Front Page Jacksonville. We'll be back in a moment.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
We are down to the last 8 minutes of the show. This past hour has been absolutely informative as well as impactful. We have Carlos and Anita Spencer in the studio with us. We've been speaking about the state of the African-American community. Have we become too complacent in America? And just based on the conversation, I may have to give a resounding yes. I believe we have been too complacent. Before we head out of here, Anita, at the very beginning, you were speaking about, you make the statement, we can't get mad at DeSantis for wanting to snatch African-American history out of schools if we're not teaching the African-American history at home. I want to add to that because I fully agree. But as I've thought through this leading up to today's show, I also believe that homeschooling is the remedy to the mass school shootings that we've been seeing across the country as well. So yes, if we want our children to be properly educated, because the Jewish community does it, and as does other communities,
Absolutely.
right? They teach their own history. They don't leave it upon the government or the educational system to teach that. So I also believe that that's how we can help mitigate a lot of the love affair that Americans have with weapons. And I have to include myself in that number. I own weapons, but at the same time, me and my loved ones, we're not running up in schools trying to cause a mass event, right? So I do believe that homeschooling is the answer for a lot of America's educational woes. What are your thoughts as it relates to homeschooling?
I believe that homeschooling is absolutely one of the best things you can do. I wish it was more popular when my children were young.
Yeah.
One of the things I did was make sure I taught my children at home. So I have a library in my home. You know, that's important that people can come. My kids come, they check out books still. I'm serious about my books.
Oh, so they got
books.
Yeah. So they got to check out the books. What about dog earring? Can they dog ear your books? Do you have an issue with that?
Oh my God! Please don't get my chest hurting.
Yeah, I'm a dog ear reader. I like the dog. I bend them corners.
So I see that we got to make sure we watch you when we check the books out to you. Got to make sure we watch you. But here's a bookmark. But I think that's one of the ways that we're going to be able to impact our homes and our community. I think it's time for us to teach our children at home, because now I can have my Black History Hour where I'm teaching my kids the very thing that they don't want us to teach. And I think one of the things that they never wanted us to have was hope. When you have hope, you can create a family with hope. Family goes back to me saying you're going to create a community, and a community is going to create that empire, and that empire is going to create that dynasty. When you take all hope away from people, you have them going in all these different directions. And the one thing that I can say about Black people is we always think we're running the right way and we're running the wrong way, which means we're not even doing wrong right. We got to stop what we are doing and understand what is happening to us. And I say this, and I'm going to leave with this also, is that a lot to all of my religious communities and people in the religions, Donald Trump is in office, that's God's will. If he wanted something else would be in place. And we got to understand what that is, and we got to now as Black people use this to our advantage. We can't be scared. We're not. What are we afraid of? Again, what are they going to do to us that they haven't already done? So it's time to step up and make sure that we are taking care of the business of our people. And first and foremost, let's establish who's Black. Who's Black? Who's Black? Because everybody doesn't know who they are. Everybody, some people, I'm mixed, I'm Indian, I'm this, I'm poor. I'm a Black woman. I'm a foundational Black American who I went to Africa, loved Africa. But what it also taught me in Africa is that I am an American. That's my geo and political place.
Now, what was it that you experienced that caused you to say, you know what, I'm American? What was it for you?
Just the way I move, the way that I am as a person, because again, this is where I've been socialized and raised. So to go over there, I understand a lot of their customs and things like that. But what I also know is that there's certain things about me that will not change because I grew up in America. And I appreciate that, and I respect that. And I love who I am as a Black American. We are very unique people. We are the only we're involuntary immigrants. We're the only involuntary immigrants.
You can't send us nowhere.
You can't take back stolen goods. You can deport other people if they get out of line. You can't take back stolen goods. And what we have to understand is the reason why we have so many issues in America. When you create a people, when you breed everything out of them and you create a people, you can do whatever you want to with them unless they take a stand.
Carlos, for yourself, any final closing remarks before we wrap up?
I just want to say to my people, you Black first.
That's right.
When your mother had you in her womb, before she knew if you were a boy or girl, she knew you was going to be Black.
That's it.
So we have to think on those levels, think about Black issues, think about how we can push our people to the next level. And I think even as a minority, we still can win.
Wow. Great insight, great conversation today here on Front Page Jacksonville. I want to thank both Carlos and Anita for hanging out with us throughout the entire 7 o'clock hour. If our listeners want to get in contact with you, how can they follow you on social media and so forth?
Well, I'm at The Real 95 South. I don't have personal social media, but The Real 95 South, you can reach me there on Instagram.
And I'm at Anita Spencer Writer on Instagram.
And after the show, Carlos and I, we're going to have a whoop contest here in the studio.
Pull the chairs back. Okay.
No, really have enjoyed having the two of you in on today's show. Love all of the topics that we've been able to discuss. For you, the listener, here's what I'd like to leave you with. Don't let the conversation dissipate on the microphone. What are we going to do after the conversation. Because fact of the matter is, we do a lot of talking, and we've been talking a good game for a really long time. But we can either talk about it or we can be about it. We don't know come January, once the inauguration takes place, we don't know what the future is going to hold. If we leave that future in someone else's hand, it's easy to predict the future once you create it. We have to start creating our own future. Where's the meeting going to be? What's the ask that we're going to create? What's going to be the demand? What's going to be the outcome? It's easy to predict the future when you create it, and it's time for us to start creating our future. We shall overcome? Nah, that's outdated. We shall create our future is where we need to stand. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today on Front Page Jacksonville. Stick around because Health Beat with Wanda P is up next. I'll catch you next time. Love you. Peace.
Front Page Jacksonville, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For show episodes, go to hot1065fm.com. We are Hot 1065.